Welcome to the deep dive. So we've gone through the sources you sent over, mostly from the Nepali Diaspora Digest, and honestly, the picture they paint is, well, it's not slow and steady progress.
No, not at all.
It feels like Nepal is at a really complex, pivotal moment. We're not talking about minor policy tweaks here.
That's absolutely right. For anyone following Nepal, especially our global Nepalese audience, these sources basically confirm that the pressure for, real systemic change is hitting a critical point.
So that's our mission today. We're going to try and extract the essential nuggets of knowledge for you, quickly but thoroughly.
Exactly. We're unpacking three big themes. First, this urgent, almost unavoidable demand for a political reset, and it's being driven by a new generation.
Okay.
Second, the economic situation, which is the staggering paradox of Nepal being cash-rich, but, well, functionally stagnant.
Right. And third.
And finally, some really crucial updates on the welfare of Nepalese migrant workers, and also some genuinely inspiring national achievements abroad.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that political pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing, it doesn't feel like standard political turbulence.
Yeah.
It feels like a fundamental challenge to the democratic structure itself.
It does. I mean, when Senior Advocate Sharma says a political reset is unavoidable, that carries some serious weight.
What's driving that?
It comes from the fact that the system is showing, and I'm quoting here, deep cracks. The public mood, especially among the youth, it just suggests that going back to the old ways or, just waiting for the next election, that's not acceptable anymore.
They feel the contract between the state and its citizens has been broken.
Fundamentally broken.
And this breakage was, it was dramatically put on display during those youth-led demonstrations on Bhadra 23rd and 24th. These weren't just a few frustrated people. This was a unified generational confrontation. They're going right after the political culture of patronage and elite dominance that's been in place since the 1990s.
And that movement wasn't just about surface-level stuff. It revealed some really uncomfortable truths. The sources highlight that it shattered three core political myths.
Okay, what were they?
First, the myth of broad popular trust. It's severely eroded, way more than the political leaders seem to acknowledge.
Right.
Second, the myth that the existing accountability systems actually work. They're seen as totally hollow.
And the third?
The myth of distributed power. The reality is that power is still highly concentrated in the hands of a few sort of interconnected political networks.
So if the accountability mechanisms are hollow and the trust is gone, just holding another election isn't really going to fix the problem.
It's not enough.
The youth are demanding something much deeper, a systemic transformation. They want governance based purely on merit, strict action against corruption, and a democracy that's not just a ritual of voting.
Exactly. A democracy that's a dynamic, trust-based relationship. And that urgency is forcing this big debate about stability. The sources lay out two viable paths forward. One path is extending the current interim government's mandate, but only if they commit to a strict, defined reform agenda right away.
And the other option?
The second path is forming a national consensus transitional government. This would deliberately include the major political parties, civil society, and this is crucial representatives from the youth movement itself.
But if you go that route, the national consensus government, and you include all the old entrenched political players, what stops them from just co-opting the youth's demands and watering everything down?
That is the critical friction point. That's the risk. The consensus seems to be that any path they choose, whether it's the interim extension or the transitional government, it has to come with an ironclad fixed commitment to comprehensive reform. We're talking constitutional, judicial, and economic reforms.
Yeah, how do you enforce that?
The only way, as implied by the experts in your sources, is through transparent timelines and public monitoring. They warn that if those demands aren't met, it'll just lead to another, maybe even larger wave of confrontation.
The current government, under Prime Minister Sushila Karki, seems to be signaling that they hear this, even if it's just symbolic for now. Her move to cut her personal secretariat really stood out.
It was a powerful signal, and she delivered it at just the right time. She cut her personal appointees from 20 down to just 6.
Wow.
And this was right after public concerns about nepotism started bubbling up. And it wasn't just cutting staff. She removed 14 people, including the wife and a relative of her own chief personal secretary.
So that's a very direct, visible response to the public demanding merit over political favors.
It is. And she's also moving fast to address the youth movement's demands, meeting with Gen Z leaders and telling administrators to finalize an agreement.
I saw her exact words. She said, "It is not good to prolong this matter." That's about political will meeting administrative speed.
It is. And that push for speed leads us right into the next big thing, the immediate priority. The House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5, 2026.
PM Karki is already pushing for poll controls, specifically to limit spending so that, quote, clean candidates can have a real shot at winning.
The whole electoral landscape is pretty complex, mainly because of the 3% proportional representation threshold, the PR threshold.
Right. Explain that for our listeners.
Sure. For any of the emerging or smaller parties, if you fail to get 3% of the national vote, all of your proportional votes are basically just wasted. It completely dilutes your political influence.
Which explains this strategic maneuvering we're starting to see. Groups like the Astriya Mukti Party Nepal, the Janata Samajwadi Party, and the Nagarik Unmukti Party in Nepal. They're all agreeing to team up.
To consolidate, yeah. They're going to contest under a single unified symbol.
Is this a full-on merger?
Not necessarily a political merger yet. It's more of a survival mechanism to avoid wasting those proportional votes. It's a pragmatic, strategic play to maximize their seats and just stay relevant in the next House.
We also saw that President Paudel approved mobilizing the Nepali army for election security. But even with that, the political friction is still pretty high, especially with the CPNUML.
Yeah, their big concern was the travel restriction placed on their chairman, KP Sharma Oli, by the commission that's investigating the Gen Z uprising.
And their argument makes sense. You can't really restrict the movement of a major opposition leader right before an election.
Exactly. They argued it hampers the democratic process, adds instability.
And the government's response was interesting.
It was. They signaled they were flexible, that they'd ease those restrictions to ensure a conducive election environment. It just highlights this balancing act they're trying to pull off.
Pursuing accountability on one hand,
while trying to create a stable political ground for elections on the other. And that search for stability is the perfect bridge to our next major topic. Because when politics is unpredictable, it hits the economy directly.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The economy. It is a complete paradox.
It's so counterintuitive. I mean, objectively, Nepal is awash in cash. Remittance inflows have hit record highs. There's massive liquidity in the system.
The numbers are huge.
Total bank deposits have ballooned to a colossal 7.4 trillion rupees. Banks are flush with cash, but they have, and this is a quote from the source, nowhere to put it.
And why is that? Why can't they invest it?
Because the whole investment climate is stagnant. You've got real estate transactions flatlining, industries operating way below capacity, and critically, non-performing loans, the NPLs.
The bad loans.
The bad loans, yeah, they're creeping up. They rose from about 4% to almost 4.9% in just the first 3 months of this fiscal year. That's a huge red flag. It signals widespread financial distress.
And a total lack of confidence.
And that lack of confidence is directly tied to the political instability. Investors, both at home and abroad, were seriously spooked by the targeted violence back in September.
Right, when global brands like Hilton and Hyatt were targeted and burned.
When investors see political protests turn into targeted attacks on businesses, they pull their capital out immediately.
The real moment for me in the sources, though, was about the real estate market. The property price-to-income ratio is now, 36.32?
The third highest in the entire world. It's astronomical.
And it's not just high, it's distorted, isn't it?
It is the ultimate fuel for this paradox. That soaring ratio isn't being driven by productive economic growth or new jobs. It's fueled almost entirely by households taking their savings, a lot of it from remittances,
right,
and just funneling it into land and housing. Why? Because there's no investment culture, or maybe just no trust in other more productive sectors like manufacturing or IT.
The cash comes in from abroad, bypasses productive investment, and just stagnates in safe, unproductive assets like land.
Exactly, and that stagnation is hitting traditional sectors hard too. Tea exports, for instance, through the eastern checkpoint plummeted by 37%. That's a loss of over 831 million rupees.
And the vulnerability in agriculture is glaring. Rice and paddy imports surged by 46% in just 4 months.
And while, climate change is part of that, it really signals this chronic underinvestment in things like irrigation and farm tech. Nepal urgently needs a national farm revival strategy just to protect its own food supply.
The climate for big international investors is also looking pretty cloudy because of legal uncertainty.
Yeah.
We have this, it's a bit technical, but it's this really important double taxation controversy with the Dolma Impact Fund.
Right. They're seeking a capital gains tax exemption based on the DTAA, the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement with Mauritius.
But the government is pushing back, citing the NCEL precedent.
And for listeners who aren't familiar, the NCEL case was this highly controversial retroactive tax that really damaged Nepal's credibility. So the government is basically arguing that because they successfully taxed NCEL retroactively,
Even though it went against treaty obligations.
they can do the same thing here.
So why does a technical dispute like this matter to the average person or someone in the diaspora looking to invest?
Because it sends a devastating signal. It tells the global community that the rules of the game in Nepal, even rules written into international treaties, can be arbitrarily changed or reinterpreted.
Based on political convenience.
Precisely. And foreign investors, especially ones focused on impact investing like Dolma, they just won't commit capital where the tax rules are so unstable, it seriously damages the national reputation.
It's a big contrast to the one positive bit of news we saw in the energy sector. Nepal is set to export an additional 20 megawatts of electricity to Bangladesh.
That is a tangible win. It strengthens bilateral cooperation, and it shows that when the right framework is in place like it is in the hydropower sector, Nepal can actually utilize its potential and generate revenue.
Okay, let's shift our focus to the global Nepalese experience, and let's start with a really serious welfare concern for aspiring migrant workers. This government decision to increase medical test fees.
Yeah, this hike it's disproportionate and very worrying. The medical test fees for workers going to the UAE have more than doubled. They jumped from around 4,500 rupees to 9,500.
And you have to put that in context.
You do. The service fee cap for workers heading to the Gulf countries and Malaysia is generally set around 10,000 rupees.
Wait, so the medical test alone now eats up almost the entire legal service fee.
Exactly. And this is so worrying because it hits the most economically disadvantaged Nepalese people, the ones who are already taking out high-interest loans just to be able to migrate. It forces the cost burden right back onto the workers.
It undermines the whole point of the fee caps, which were designed to protect them from exploitation.
From debt bondage, yeah.
But amid these challenges, we saw a landmark victory for justice for the Nepalese diaspora in Japan. The Tokyo High Court ordered over $250,000 in damages for the family of Arjun Bahadur Singh.
A Nepalese migrant worker who tragically died in police custody back in 2017.
This is a huge human rights precedent, isn't it?
It is. The court ruled very clearly that the police failed in their duty to prevent his death, specifically citing excessive restraint. It just underscores the critical importance of persistent legal efforts to get justice for Nepalese citizens abroad. It's a source of pride, really, that this long fight was successful.
And that kind of resilience and success is definitely reflected in some other national achievements, too. Let's celebrate those soft power wins.
For sure.
Nepal was honored as the best destination of the year for adventure tourism at the India International Travel Mart.
A fantastic recognition. It leverages Nepal's core strength. And we have to talk about the incredible achievement of ultramarathoner Sunmaya Buddha.
An amazing story.
She clinched the World Trail Majors title, winning her 5th gold medal of 2025 at the brutal Ultra Trail Cape Town 100-kilometer race.
It's just so inspiring. She trains in her remote village in Jumla, and it just proves that world-class excellence can come from anywhere. These athletes, they carry the nation's identity on a global stage.
It brings immense pride. And moving back home, we are seeing some important moves on the digital and cultural fronts. Kathmandu Metropolitan City, KMC, is launching a really crucial digital literacy program.
And this isn't just about how to use the internet.
No, it's specifically designed to help residents make safe digital transactions, which is vital for e-governance and, protecting people from all the rising digital scams.
There's also a strong push for cultural preservation. The mayor of Lalitpur, Chiri Babu Maharjan, is using information technology to help preserve Nepabhasa, the Nuari language.
That's a great modern approach to maintaining a rich cultural heritage.
Yeah, but as these cultural sites are highlighted, the conversation is also turning towards inclusive tourism.
And it needs to. There's a growing demand for investment in wheelchair-accessible tours and trekking. It's still a major point of frustration that World Heritage sites like Pashupatinath and Swayambhunath are. Well, they're still largely inaccessible to differently abled visitors.
The infrastructure just hasn't kept up.
Not at all.
Okay, before we wrap up our analysis, we just want to give a quick resource reminder for our community. If you are a Nepalese living in the UK, make sure you check out belayat.uk. That's belayat.uk. It's a really helpful classifieds platform specifically designed to help Nepalese connect on everything from jobs and housing to local events and finding Nepalese-owned businesses in your area.
So if we're going to synthesize the core tensions we've looked at today, the central dilemma for Nepal is pretty stark. On one side, you have this profound political instability, deep-seated corruption, and an economic paradox.
Right. All that capital, that massive 7.4 trillion rupees in deposits, is just sitting idle, fueling nothing but real estate bubbles.
But then on the other side, you see the undeniable demonstrated potential of the Nepalese people.
Whether it's Sumaya Buddha winning a global title, or securing a landmark legal victory in Japan, or the country finally making real progress in cross-border energy exports.
And that contrast, it raises the pivotal question for the next generation of leadership. If this youth movement successfully forces the systemic change they're demanding, transparency, meritocracy, rule of law into the political system, how will Nepal finally transition that paradox of high capital? How do you turn those massive remittances and bank deposits into productive job-creating investment instead of just letting it stagnate and land?
It's the one challenge that has to be met if the country is really going to stabilize and grow. If you want to dive deeper into any of the updates we covered today, make sure to visit nepalidiaspora.net for the full newsletter and all the detailed sources we pulled from. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.